You know, sometimes we look at these fights, and I think to myself, you know what? Come Sunday morning, we're going to be saying to ourselves, we should have known. We should have known what was going to happen in this fight. Either Volkov is just the experience is going to be too much, or Aspinall, all of the things we've been saying about him, all the things we've been hearing about him, his potential is just going to shine through. I think that this is going to be a very definitive result. I just am not sure which way it's going to go, and that's reflected in the line as it's so close. What do you make of this?
Look, styles make fights, and everything you just said couldn't be any more true. You know, is Volkov ready to kind of stop the hype train of Tom Aspinall and continue up the ladder? He's on a nice little win streak himself. Does the experience play a factor, or is Tom Aspinall truly ready to break through and get to the top? Is Volkov now just a really, really solid gatekeeper? For me, I'm going to roll the dice on the prospect here in Tom Aspinall. You know, people are talking about with Volkov, the experience, the cardio. I can't question Tom Aspinall's cardio yet because we haven't had a chance to see it. Just because he hasn't been in rounds 4 or 5 doesn't mean he can't do it. You know, the one thing that I really liked about Tom Aspinall, and I want to point out the Andrei Arlovski fight. Round 1, he lost that round 10-9. He looked a little out of place, maybe a little starstruck fighting one of his heroes. Round 2, he came out, bull rushed him, took him down, and submitted him. I think that's where the big difference is going to be here, is going to be if and when he takes Volkov to the ground. I'm hoping it's on 1 or 2 tries, because if it gets past that, that's a lot of energy he's going to exert. He also has very polished boxing. We saw it against Sergey Spivak in his last fight, throwing those elbows. I think he's a very well-rounded, composed fighter. You know, he's young, he's on the up and up. I just like where he is at. I think if this fight goes to the ground where he can really push through this jiu-jitsu is where he gets it done. So we're going to go with Tom Aspinall here.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Ian, and I got to say, you know, obviously we know how confident you are in some of your different plays when we hear about your best bets. Those are the ones that you are the most confident in. So I don't know if this is one of your best bets, but I would like to hear you say just how confident are you in this pick, and what, when you have these situations where the guy has looked so good and you want to take advantage of value on him before those start to get too big, but you haven't seen some of those questions answered because we just haven't seen it, right? He hasn't really fought outside of the first round. He's in a situation now where he's going to be fighting in front of the biggest crowd that he's ever fought in his entire career. Some of those things can turn into jitters. Some of them can affect guys that we just haven't seen long careers out of. So does it give you pause, or you know, we don't talk about units all that much on this show, but does it make you kind of size your bet down a little bit because of those maybe unknowns?
Well, Brett, actually, that's a great question when it comes to the betting side of things. So I'm going to kind of take your question. I'm going to reverse it a little bit in order to answer this, right? So for me, if you want to play that game, if you are a little hesitant because of everything you just said about Tom Aspinall, more of the unknowns compared to what we've seen out of Volkov, then play it as the night goes. You know, if you haven't taken Aspinall earlier in the week where he was plus 110, I think now he's at minus 130. That's a big change. It's a big difference in what we call the value, right? So for me, if you then want to even take a prop, kind of mitigate the odds a little bit, but how I would suggest doing this, if you're not confident, I am confident Tom Aspinall, you know, you have to, if you're at this point in the UFC, the jitters, you can't bet on the jitters or worry about that. You can't assume that he's going to be super nervous, not super nervous. You have to expect that he's a professional. His mindset's ready for the main event. His team's behind him and he's ready to go. But to protect yourself on a betting standpoint, see where the night goes. If you are up money, that's where you can decide how many units you want to go, or if you want to pull back. So that's how I would kind of play it if you're a little uncomfortable there.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.